In this video, we're going to pick up where we left off with the photography template that you see here. We have it edited with our name and our device, and we're going to begin to talk about how to use this template to insert our images or other images into it and get them to be the correct size. We'll also look at an additional idea toward the end of how to bring graphics into this template and transform or free transform them also. A couple of main ideas of this exercise will be free transform, which this video is particularly about. Photoshop's free transform ability allows us to change the size of an image, a picture, or a graphic proportionately. So free transform is the main idea here. Free transform allows us to change the size of an image proportionately, and that means equally on all sides. And in order to do this, we'll need to stretch or shrink images so that they overlap our template just a little bit. That way there's no gaps on any side of the image and it fits nicely into our template. And that'll require us to zoom out of the image so we can see the bounding box around the image we're trying to change the size of, and we can see the outside of our template. Let's take a look here first at proportional, because free transforming in Photoshop allows us to change the size of an image proportionately. The definition here says proportionally is an adjective that means corresponding in size or amount to something else, having a constant ratio to another quantity. Proportionally means, in terms of graphics and photography, when we change the size of something, that it's changing equally from left to right and up and down. Basically, it means that our images aren't being reduced in quality, or it means that our images aren't getting squashed. And we'll look at some examples of squashed images that are done incorrectly versus those done correctly and are proportional. I have some tabs open here, and the links to all these tabs will be in this video. Some photographs of different sizes and some graphics there towards the end. So I'm going to slide this over to the right a little bit and take a look at our photo template. Here we can see it is in the condition that we left off from the last video. We have our name and our device in the lower corner, and we can see all the layers. You know you have the right file, a Photoshop file, and you can take a look in the upper left here and see that we have a .psd file. It tells us it's a Photoshop file, and a Photoshop file, remember, is dynamic. It allows us to turn layers on and off and even move them, as we'll see in a minute or two. A couple tools we'll use here. Free transform is the primary new idea or Photoshop tool. But in addition to that, we'll also use the zoom tool located on the left-hand side vertical toolbar toward the bottom. I'm going to click the zoom tool, and you notice when I bring the zoom tool into the center of this picture of our template, the zoom tool has a plus in the center of it. If I click, it zooms in. If I hold the Option or Alt key, the zoom tool will zoom out. If for some reason your zoom tool is defaulted not to a plus but to a minus, you can slide up here and see. Now it's defaulted to minus and zooms out without the Option or Alt key, and I hold the Alt or Option key and now it turns to a plus or zoom in. You can change the default, whether you want it to be automatically zooming in or out. With the addition of the Option or Alt key, you can change the direction of the zoom. I generally keep mine defaulted on zooming in, and use the Alt key to zoom out. One of the big ideas of free transforming will be able to see the entire template or canvas or document, as we can see here. And another idea is that we don't just want to be able to see it, we want to kind of be able to see it from what I sometimes call from the airplane view. You can see me zooming out, and I'm zoomed out quite a bit. If we look up here, I'm at 12.5%. This will help when we are changing the size or free transforming our image, our photograph. So let's get to it. I'm going to zoom back into 16%. I'm going to go out to the web here. I'm going to grab one of these photos. At first, I'll grab a small photo. Here's a photo that's 200 pixels by 179 pixels. I'm going to hold the Control key down and click on it and go to Copy Image. I'll come into Photoshop and hit Command V. You could also go to Edit, Paste. That will paste the image into the center of the template. I'll zoom in so you can see it's there. And it's very small. It's worth mentioning here that better results will be seen when we can bring in images that are larger than our 1920 by 1080 template. When images are larger than this template or this canvas, they have a higher resolution than it, and when we're free transforming, we'll actually be reducing their size, which is a good thing. In this case, you see we have a small image, so we'll actually be taking a very small image and trying to stretch it into a larger frame or this larger template. And this will stretch its quality and is less desirable than bringing in a large image to shrink it down. So it's always desirable to bring in a larger image and shrink it than bring in a smaller image and stretch it. We'll be okay with this, but just keep that in mind. Bigger to smaller is always better. I'm going to zoom out again. I'm at 25%. I'm at 16%. And I'll zoom back into 25 so you can see it. But it's not uncommon to free transform at 12% or 16%. Let's begin the free transform. Free transform begins by making sure that we're on this layer that we brought in. And you notice that layer just kind of found its way in between our name and our device. No problem right now. In fact, it'll present an opportunity for another lesson within this one. I'm going to press Command and T on the keyboard, and you'll notice there's a bounding box around this square. I'm going to do this incorrectly first so that you can see the difference. A typical response when asked to make this photo fit inside this template would be simply to grab the corners, stretch them out so that it fits inside. Once complete, we can click on the Move tool to accept the changes. You'll notice this blurriness go away. And here we have that image. That's how to incorrectly do this. And you can see this image, it looks squashed. Now, if you don't see that, you'll hopefully begin to develop an eye that can see images that were free transformed or sized correctly versus those that were done like we just did, where we just grabbed the edges and brought it in and made it fit. So that's the incorrect way to do it. Let's look at the correct way. I'm going to Option Command Z and step backward, and here we are back with our small image in the center. I'll hit Command T to free transform. So the correct way to do this, and here's a very, very important, maybe the most important point to remember of this particular exercise, is when we free transform, we hold the Shift key. We keep the Shift key held in until we've accepted the changes. So the Shift key is always in, and we always resize from a corner of the image. You're going to see the difference now when I do that. I'm going to hold my Shift key, and I'm going to stretch this image from the corner over here, and then I still have my shift key in, and I'll stretch this image from the corner here, and I'll go up here, and before I hit the move tool to accept these changes, and that'll get rid of some of the fuzziness you see, notice how around the edges I've brought this photo just a little bit over the left and right hand side. Now it's quite a bit over the top and bottom, but that's just the way this picture worked out. It was a square and it's going into a rectangle, so we're going to lose some of the top and bottom, and we can reposition it once it's in there. But that's just the way it goes sometimes when we're free transforming proportionally. I'm going to go hit the move tool to accept the changes, and I still have the shift key held in. I didn't let go of that yet. And I'll hit apply, and now it's free transformed inside this frame, inside our template, and I can slide it down. And I want to get it so it's a little bit, I don't lose any of the image, or I don't have any of the old template peeking through. And we do lose some of the image. That's just one of the side effects for free transforming. But we have transformed this image proportionately, meaning from the left, from the right, from the top to the bottom, equal on all sides. And that's what we want, to not distort the image. So you'll notice I see my name, but I don't see my device, and I don't see the Twin Valley Tech Ed on the bottom right. And that just means that this layer of these girls playing soccer is above those layers. That's why I don't see it. You'll notice if I turn this eyeball off, they're still there. They just happen to be above the layers that have my text identifiers. I'll just click on layer 1, hold my mouse button down, and drag it. And you'll notice I dragged it all the way down, well, almost, but I didn't drag it far enough because I can't see the Twin Valley or the TV here. So I'll just hold my mouse button down and drag it down one more layer, and now I can see all my identifiers, and I'm ready to save. So I'm going to minimize this window so you can see this, how this gets saved. We'll go to File, Save As. In this case, we'll probably want to save this not as a Photoshop document, but as a JPEG. We're going to share it on the web or in a Google Doc or publish it somewhere digitally. So I'm going to save it as my last name, soccer. And I'm going to go down to the format and choose JPEG. That'll make it easy to share or upload. And I'll hit save. It's going to ask me, it's going to give me some JPEG options, and I'm going to click make sure this is maximized and click OK. You'll notice it shows up here on the desktop, and we've successfully transformed that proportionally. For the next few images, I'm going to move a little bit faster because the ideas are the same. I'm going to go out here to the web. This time I'm going to grab a large image. Here's a fairly large image. Here's an even larger image. And this is vertical, so this will present a different set of parameters when we're free transforming. This will be ideal as this is a very large image we're going to try to make small. Let's take a look. I'll hold Control and click and copy the image. I'll hit Command V or Edit Paste and paste the image in here. Here you can see that this is a pretty big image. We've already lost part of it on the top and bottom, and that's probably going to be something that happens with this image or a lot of your larger images, but that's okay. And you'll notice I'm still zoomed out. I'm at 25%. And if I really want to work efficiently with a very large image, I'll click my zoom tool and zoom out even further. I'll hit Command T to free transform, and you'll see the bounding box. I'm going to hold the Shift key, which I'm now pressing, and I won't let go till this job is complete. I'm going to stretch it from the corner, only from the corner, and there it is. Notice we did lose some on the top and the bottom, and a little on the left and the right. The little on the left and the right is okay because we're making sure that this photo in its new size does indeed stretch larger than our template. We wouldn't want it smaller, in which case we'd have other photos from the background popping through. We want it just a little bit larger. I'm still holding the Shift key. I'm going to click the Move tool to accept. It asks me if I'd like to apply the transformation, and I answer yes, apply. And now I can move this around where I want it, and it's in a pretty good spot right here. The only thing, I can't see my name identifier, so I'll go over to the layer and I'll drag it down. There you can see my name pop in. Let me zoom in so you can see. My name has come in. I'll drag it down another layer. My device has come in. There's the T and the TV. If you take a look, you'll notice that there is a blue line over here on this image. That tells me that this image isn't stretched large enough and part of another picture is coming in on the right hand side. So you want to take a look at that before you save each image. If I save this as it is, it would look a little funny. There's blue from the soccer image peeking through on the right hand side. I'm going to zoom out. I can still see that blue. I'm going to click my Move tool and slide this image over a little bit, and you can see I got rid of it. That's why we made this image a little larger, so that we were sure we could move this around and not have any of the other images peeking through. I'm going to save this image by going to File, Save As, and I'll call this my last name, and I'll give it a name, Art Wall. I'll save it as a JPEG image, save it to my desktop. We'll always choose Maximize because we're not restricted on our computers by storage space. If we had a different computer where storage space was limited, we might change the size of this file. But in most cases, for what we'll do, we can maximize the file quality, and then in the future, if we want a smaller image, we can make it smaller later. It's always a good idea to choose the maximum when we can. So I'll click OK, and you'll see that JPEG show out here on my desktop, and I can move those to another folder if and when I'm ready. Let's do another. I'll go back out here to the images I have. I'll take this one to the school. I'll hit Control, copy the image. Before I paste it, I'm going to zoom out. I'm at about 16%. That seems to be a good place when I free transform to be able to see all the edges of the bounding box. I'll hit Command V to paste, and you can see we're working with a smaller image. I'm going to hit Command T to free transform, hold my Shift key, stretch it out. Notice how I've overlapped on the edges. And you'll notice this is a little blurry. This is a smaller pixeled image than our canvas, than our template. It'll clear up once I click the Move tool to accept it. Apply the transformation. And it didn't turn out too bad. I can move it about. I'll zoom in to make sure that the edges look good. I'll slide it over so you can see what you're looking to avoid, and then I'll bring it back. I need to slide the layer down so I can see the identifiers through it. And now I can save it out. I'll call this Sunrise. My last name, Sunrise. Oops. And I'll save that out as a JPEG. You certainly could save them as Photoshop files if you were doing editing and you wanted to work with them more, but we're saving them out as JPEGs, and let's just minimize this so we can see where it gets saved. And there it is. Okay, we'll do two more images. Here's an example of a really large image. I'll hit Control and go to copy the image. Before I paste it in, I'll zoom out. I'll paste it in. Notice it's pretty big. I hit Command T. It won't be much free transforming here. I have my Shift key held in until I click the Move tool to apply it. And there it is. This is just a picture of a flash drive. Zoom in to check it out. Notice where I pasted it in was at the top of these layers, so no need to slide it around if it was above them. I could bring it down, but this is in a good spot. Turn it off. I can see the images hanging out behind it. We'll go to File, Save As. I'll just call this flash drive, my last name, flash drive, and save it as a JPEG. And we see that. These JPEGs are beginning to build on our desktop, and at some point we would want to create some organization for them. Let's take a look at one more large photo. This is a 4,000 by 3,000 pixel photo. I'll hit Control, copy the image. And I'll paste the image in. You'll notice I'm at 50% zoom. Most of the free transforms we've done to this point have been at 12 and 16%. I zoomed into 50 to show you a common mistake that's made, and that is to try and free transform, particularly a large image like this, when we're zoomed in. It becomes much more difficult, much more time consuming, tedious, and the likelihood of error is much greater, as you'll see. If I were to hit Command T now, you can see I get the bounding box on the edge, but I can't see the entire photo. So when I hold my Shift key and try and free transform, I do that, but it's not long until that photo is off of the canvas. And I still have my Shift key in, I can bring it in and try and free transform. But you'll notice the steps are much greater than what we had done before. Now it's a little smaller, so I need to try and stretch it out larger. And I eventually get where I hope to be. But now look at the difference. That same image, I'll zoom out. I'm at 16%. I paste it in, Command T to free transform. I can move that image into the center, hold Shift from the corner, and from this corner, click the Move tool to accept, and I got a nice, quick, efficient, effective free transform. Working from that zoomed out view makes the job cleaner and more efficient. So this has been a lesson in free transforming photographs of different sizes, small and large, and working from the zoomed out view. Never forget to hold the Shift key and change the size from the corner of the image. Remember, if we don't do that, we're going to get a squashed image. I'm going to step back and show you that here. If I were to hit free transform and not hold the Shift key from the corner and just change the size of this from any direction, and I could use the corner, but without the Shift key held, I can still apply a transformation to this, but if you take a look, it's one that's unproportional. We don't want to do that, and we remember this isn't desirable because it's squashed. We want to hold the Shift key from the corner. Don't let go of that Shift key until your transformation's complete. And you'll get a nice size proportional image. We'll go one more step with this, and we'll free transform a graphic. I'll click over here. I'll hold Control and copy image on this camera. You'll notice I'm in that zoomed out state. I'll hit Command V to paste. And here we have an image of a camera. I'll hit Command T, hold the Shift key from the corner, and we can free transform that camera to a very nice size in that canvas, holding the Shift key, applying the transformation, and then we can move it where we'd like it in the image. So the process is no different for a graphic. Working in the zoomed out view, holding the Shift key and working from the corner until we apply the transformation make for very good proportional graphics and photographs using free transform.